it happened to this young man, and he had a head-on contact, and that guy, fired first. The bullet basically hit his bulletproof, and the bulletproof collapsed, cracked his skull with such impact that his eye popped out and was basically hanging here. And this guy, after that, killed that guy.
Really?
Yeah.
With the eye popping out.
Yeah. I was staring into the darkness. There was a particular place I had to look at, and I was just constantly just looking at that and waiting. So my buddy was asleep, and maybe hour and a half had passed, and I was just waiting and waiting, and I heard some noise right next to me. So I switched on my night vision goggles and I turned to look, and I saw this leopard sitting right next to me. And that's the first time I saw a leopard.
Agio Presents TRS is back with a military episode after the longest time. This armed forces niche on TRS began with this man, Major Vivek Jacob. He gave us some incredibly intense conversations when he was on the show the last time. This conversation was actually a 4-hour long recording. So what you're seeing is a slightly edited down, slightly crunched down version, primarily because a lot of military stories and military perspectives shouldn't be put on the internet in their rawest form. But when it comes to these military perspectives, I believe that the special forces of India, which are the commandos or the highest efficiency part of the Indian armed forces, these human beings have lived a very different life. They've gone about their operations, they've gone about multiple combat situations and become a different format of being human. Major Vivek Jacob himself is one of the most respected special forces veterans. Some people consider him one of the most fierce and battle-hardened soldiers that India has ever produced. This conversation was an extremely deep dive into his mind and his heart. We tried to figure how he has achieved it in style in his own military career. We got to know a lot of extremely heavy perspectives as well. This particular podcast is not the easiest listen. That's the cautionary input I'll give you at the start of this episode. What I will say is that TRS's military episodes are always memorable. It's always very heavy for me as a podcaster. I hope you enjoy this one. For more episodes like this, follow us on Spotify. Every episode is available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world, because TRS is a Spotify exclusive. This look has been styled by Agio. So if you wish to look this stylish, make sure you download the Agio app straight away. This is another epic armed forces special with Major Vivek Jacob. Major Vivek Jacob, my God, happy to see you, sir.
Same here, man.
Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to our space.
Different space, same story.
So many people have watched the 2 episodes we did way back. It was my first ever military podcast that I did with you. Couldn't have asked for a better guest, honestly. But I was a rookie at that point. I was a rookie podcaster, didn't know much about the military to even navigate through the conversation. And honestly, I was extremely intimidated then. So today, I think we're going to have a much more open-ended, casual, opened-up conversation, sir.
Roger.
Yeah. How are you, sir?
Getting along so far, so good.
Yeah. How are you different from the last time we spoke?
Well, let go of a lot of things since then. So it's, at some point it's about collecting things, and then at some point it becomes about letting things go. So we're letting go chal raha hai.
Okay. You mean like memories or?
No, not memories, concepts, perceptions about what reality is, and how to address it. And at the end of the day, it's like, the rivers, from the mountains always flow down to the sea. So it, then from the sea, then it comes, it goes into vapor and goes into clouds, and the clouds form rain, and it's a cycle, So letting go of concepts, and concepts are what bind you. So and you struggle with those bindings. So at some point you realize that there's a journey to understanding, and then from understanding there's a journey to realization. So or realization of what is, and to fully absorb that, and then live life in a blissful heavenly manner.
There are only two groups of people who talk at this frequency:
Huh.
monks and special forces veterans.
Acha, okay.
I've
काफी
always noticed
similarity
this.
है.
You're one of the special forces veterans who is ready to talk about this at the start of a conversation. Usually they warm up, and at the end of the conversation they'll talk about consciousness and things which are beyond our realm, but you start right from the top. My gauge with you, and this is not me as a podcaster, honored to call you a friend,
Yes,
a brother.
of course.
I feel like my big brother has learned a lot in his special forces education, but I also feel your personality has been educated because of the battlefield. Am I
Yes.
right in saying that?
Yes, absolutely. Not only just the battlefield, whatever I am today, or whatever I think I am today, and from there, how I live my life is a culmination from birth to now. So it's a combination of the information you're carrying in your DNA, then the experiences you have from your childhood, and then when you get into a professional life, whichever life you choose. In my case, it was the SF. So in the SF, then there are experiences, and then when you come out from all that, you look back and reflect, and then there's a patterns that emerge.
Okay.
So yeah.
The reason I'm interrupting you right now is because there are new listeners on the show who probably haven't heard our past 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I'm assuming by this point most people know what special forces are, but learned it from you. Special forces are the highest efficiency troop within the Indian army. It's the soldiers who are psychologically, and I would also argue physically, a cut above the rest because of the kind of extra supplemental training you guys have got, and because of the type of missions that y'all are engaged in. So the internet has learned about special forces now, has learned about what para SF is now, which is why I think I'll be able to navigate this conversation much better.
Okay.
Would you like to add anything to the basic definition of special forces that I've given?
Yeah. So ultimately, where I what I understood, and that's where the understanding has remained. Also, the crux is basically special forces is a mindset, and it develops over a period of time as you go through life. There are so many obstacles. There are emotional play, there is psychological play going on, there's a physical play going on. These experiences happening in various realms, but at the core of it, the human being is the same. The consciousness or whatever is the same, and as we go through life, you step back and you start realizing that special forces and these things, it's about being yourself, which is special. Like, everybody is special. There is no human being who has been born before who's exactly like you, thinks like you, talks like you, is experiencing life like you. It's never happened before, and it'll never ever happen again in the eternity of time. You have never happened before, and you're never going to happen again. And that's the case with all life. So everyone is uniquely special, and it's just the realization of that which turns into a mindset over a period of time. Your neural network forms like that, because so many experiences cut करके चलते रहते हैं, and you keep evolving into realizing yourself. And then once you are reaching at that level of understanding, and from there, then you can focus your energy on whichever target, if you may say. So it's just a mindset, and that is what is special in terms of the military special forces are concerned. So it's a directed energy, basically. The nation or national security or whatever, it's a form of energy which the government, the armed forces can apply or focus at a certain point, which the government feels is something needs to be sorted out, to make the country a safer place, to make the country a place where people can go about their lives very simply without worrying about what is going to happen tomorrow, whether this nation is going to exist or not. So people go around businesses, people have creative work, right from people who are in villages to people who are in big cities like Bombay and all that. Everybody's operating and living their lives out in a certain environment. That environment is a wished for environment for freedom, and that freedom needs to be protected. So special force is a form of energy which is directed by whoever are the people who take that decision and protect.
I'm going to explain it to the 7-year-olds here.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly what you said. An example of a special forces mission would be you go on the other side of the border
Hmm.
And if there is a group that has to be taken out in stealth, silently,
Hmm.
only the Special Forces of India, the Para SF, can execute a mission like that silently with minimum casualties on our side.
Hmm.
I know some of these sentences piss you off a little
No,
bit on.
no.
Okay.
No. I understand, and क्या बोलते हैं, I'll just give my perspective.
Sure.
From the inside, you can give perspective. Special forces, be it para SF, or there are many expressions of special forces depending on whether it's the army, navy, air force. There are certain other kinds of special forces also, and the whole idea is creative destruction. You destroy, but creatively. You have certain parameters, and those parameters, every operation has very, very different parameters. Every task has very, very different parameters. So you have an open-ended mandate. You can be basically tasked to do anything, anywhere, anytime. So it's just anything. So the whole idea of creating a force or an energy force, and a directed form of concise, precise energy, which is trained, equipped, ready to do anything, anywhere, anytime, is is what the whole idea is all about. And in this case, it is about national security. It's about how the government, the governments, nations have long term visions about how the nation would progress, and how there will be खुशहाली होगी. Basically, there will be people will can go about their lives without feeling insecure, and therefore live more creative lives, more merged, more collaborative lives, and evolution can happen and things like that. So special forces is just an expression of a form of energy which can be directed to execute certain thing, or to remove certain thing from a matrix which doesn't fit the long term visions of the government, of the immediate vision or a long term vision that the government may be having. So
Okay.
people like that are chosen, and then they are trained, and they're equipped, and then they are sent to do whatever, wherever, anywhere, anytime.
Throughout our last conversation, I was constantly afraid about pissing you off. Like that was because I was just scared that something I would say or something I would ask would have crossed a line. I know I crossed a few lines, and we had to actually take out some snippets from that podcast because it couldn't make its way to the internet.
True.
Because a lot of the nature of the work you do is secret. That's true.
Like I said, anywhere, anything, anytime, in whichever format, depends on what the job needs.
Okay.
On these kind of it's like a painting. It's like an it any it's so every operation is different. It's like a masterpiece. Every time you go out, it's a masterpiece. It has, and you have to be in the now, because everything everything is new. Every operation is different. Every target is different. Every goal is different. Every expression of how things should be is different. So every time you go in, you have to be open-ended, and then see how things as they are, and then do what needs to be done. You have certain previous training that you have certain equipment that you have certain experiences that you have, and all of that comes together, and then you go out and do something that needs to be done.
Okay.
That's it.
I might ask you a question that
Please
you may not answer, and
please feel free.
Okay.
Baki,
All right, sir.
there's no pissing me off.
There's a teammate of yours on Claw right now. Claw is what Sir is doing post his military career. We've covered that in the second episode. Major Ambati,
Yeah.
who guided me a lot before the first podcast with you. And I said that if you were to describe Major Jacob in one sentence, how would you describe him? And he said that that's the most battle-hardened soldier that India has right now.
नहीं तो ज़्यादा बोल दिया है तो.
That's your humility.
बहुत लोग हैं. There are so many people, and just because of the nature of what I am doing, I have come out. But there are so many people who have done far more than I have done.
Who's done more than you, and like what is okay, fine, all right.
Yeah. There are lots. Like there are just so many people that I look up to. Some of them are no more. Some of them are alive. Some of them are still in the service. Some are outside the service. But I have met a heck of a lot of people who are way ahead of me. In terms of whatever. I have my own thing. I will not say that I was not good at what I was doing. I was, I was what I was, and I am what I am. So. Yeah, so Major Arun thinking that, and saying I can understand where that is coming from. And But then there's just so many people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't like doing this again because I know that movies piss off special forces vets. But there is a movie called Lone Survivor,
Yeah.
which special forces vet actually spoke about on the show.
Yeah.
He said that if you really want to know the true fucking nature of special forces, watch that movie. And I watched that movie, and that movie f***ed me up, honestly, a little bit, because it's such a harshly made movie. I saw an interview of the actual guy who survived that particular battle on Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan said, was there anything in the movie that was shown in a more extreme way than it actually happened? He said, no, the more extreme things were not shown in the movie. Because it was even worse. And it was such an intense movie to watch. That's the true nature of battle, modern battles, where you might end up losing a teammate, where you might end up losing your fingers because of a bullet, where you might end up, with one of your lungs having collapsed in the middle of a battlefield. But the average civilian from anywhere in the world won't know this. That is the true nature of battle that only special forces vets from all over the world probably know, at least the ones who have been a part of battle scenarios. When businessmen have a problem in businesses, again, full of problems just thrown at you. I'm sure you're experiencing that at Claw. If you were to personify the problems that came towards you, every day there's like an enemy you're like fighting, there's a situation you're tackling. But I can't imagine what it's like on the battlefield where something goes wrong and you face some sort of a challenge samne se. My question to you is, what's the biggest challenge you ever faced on a battlefield? Like, has there been a moment, situation, experience that's been extremely challenging where you've had to actually navigate a lot through your own head and physical body to overcome it?
Yeah. I discussed this in the last talk also, but not this perspective that I'll share. The last time we spoke, so I had mentioned that throughout in my service career, I was very, very blessed or very, very lucky, or whichever way you want to look at it. But, always went in, came out unscathed. When I say I, means all the people that we used, the team that would go and do whatever we are supposed to do, we would come out as is, as was, as is, nikalte hain hum bahar. There was one particular, task that we were given, and usme I started the first time, and I had by the time spent more than a decade in my career, and the first time I felt like getting out of the situation where I was in, and nothing had really happened. काम पे लगे हुए थे, बैठे हुए थे, तो and we were I just for the first time, I started feeling uncomfortable in an op. So there was a heck of a lot of mental and heart battle that happened before anything happened. That instinctively I wanted to extract. I wanted to get out, and just kept becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The discomfort went, became anxiety to a point where, I just wanted to get out, and I couldn't think about it. Why do I want to get out? I never wanted to get out. So why am I wanting to get out? Nothing has happened.
You need to give some context again to people who are listening to you the first time.
So last time we spoke about an op where one of my teammates, he blew up his leg. So he stepped on a mine and his leg blew up. So before that happened, like I said, whoever's blessings are there, but there is someone who was blessing us all the time and was walking. Some energy used to walk with us, and we never made a mistake. So, and I was also completely and always in a flow state, no past, no future, always in the now, always in the now, always in the now. And then that time, after more than a decade, when I first time I felt discomfort, and that discomfort over a period of a couple of hours turned into extreme anxiety, and nothing has happened. It's just coming from inside, and one doesn't know why it's happening. And then,
as in, when you say anxiety, your breath became fast, you started sweating.
So it's beyond physical. It has physical expressions where you start maybe sweating, or it's extreme discomfort which is arising from something that your mind can't put a finger on.
And this is after you're an extremely experienced soldier.
Yes.
You've seen
By that time,
all sorts of situations, but this
yeah,
one
more or less,
situation.
yes. So this is the first and last time where I felt where I needed to get out from where I am, and I didn't know why. And then at some point I decided to stick on because I could not find a logical reason to get out. The only thing I could think of is that I've become lazy, and that's why I want to leave, because where I was where my base is there, there is warm water because you're in high altitude, and so there are look bases where we are, and those bases have warm water, they have chicken, they have old monk, they have this that, and there's warm blankets and sleeping bags and things, and it's so I the only reason I could think of that I want to get out is because I want to go back to that comfortable place, and that's why I'm wanting to go. So basically, then I was analyzing it because the discomfort kept increasing, and I couldn't find a reason why I'm wanting to get out. So uh, the only thing that I could think of after a couple of hours, and as to why do I want to leave, is because I thought maybe I'm just looking for the comfort that that place offers, my base offers. So then I decided that that can't be the reason why I leave. That will not be the reason why I leave. And so I stayed put. And just about whatever, some time later, there was an explosion, and this guy lost his leg. And then to get out from it was, it's chaos. Basically, you're very very far away from your base, and there's this guy who's your brother, and he's lost his leg, and he's spurting blood all over the damn place, and 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 you are in a place where you don't want to uh, uh, get caught or get known, that you are there. And then, because you are very few in numbers and things like that, so you want to get out, and then you see that this guy, his basically leg is gone, and it's shit. Chaos has hit, and you're in the wrongest place in the world where you can be, and where the most so when if somebody dies, let's say if somebody dies, there's still options that you have, because he's gone already. But but if that guy is alive and is on the verge of going away, and you are the only thing that is you, or how your brain is going to work, and what you're going to do now, is that going to be the difference between his life and his death. And plus, legs blowing up. So in the SF, how it is that you prepare for battle, you prepare for in various ways, equipment training, planning, etc, wagera wagera. But you also prepare for ups, right? What is a fuck up in an SF environment, in a military environment, in an army environment? A fuck up is basically, or in the fuck up is basically getting shot, someone from your team getting shot, maimed, or dying. That's the fuck up. That's the only kind of fuck ups which happen, more or less. So so at that time, it's like ultimate chaos has descended. You are in the realm of chaos now, the dimension of chaos, and there anything can happen, and everything is out of your control. Now, when everything is chaos, is that only there's you it's just everything is gone to shit, right? So from there, the difference between success and failure, or life and death, is basically what you're going to do now and how you're going to handle it. So at that point of time, when all this was going on and extreme chaos, you're in a place where you shouldn't be. And then the guy is the guy is alive, and he's on the verge of death. You don't know, he may die in the next minute, he may die in half an hour, you don't know. And you're very 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 far away in the middle of mountains, in very very high places, and getting back to base is a long affair. And everything, it's pitch dark, and now you know that the entire place has got mines. There could be anywhere. And if another guy gets hit like this, then you'll not, it's probably impossible to extract. So at that point of time, when chaos has hit, death is in the air, and to be to be to watch and then to be able to extract is probably the most challenging experience that I've had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you go into a flow state in order to even fix the problem?
Yeah, there is no other way actually to fix the problem. You have to go into flow state. You have to surrender to the situation. By surrendering comes acceptance. Once acceptance comes, from acceptance comes awareness. With awareness, there comes choices. From choices, you can make that one choice that is going to make the difference between your brother living or dying.
What was
That's
the
it.
choice?
The choice was to, of course, immediately go into repair mode.
Morphine.
Yeah, morphine. You put IV. You replace the blood loss that is happening. You try to stem the flow of the blood. You do your bandaging. You assess the wound. You see how much damage has happened and how best to control or limit the damage so that the time span where this guy is alive is extended till the time you can extract and get him to a place where he can have a proper surgery and things like that.
What was he saying?
Nothing.
He was quiet.
Yeah. So that's one of the most amazing things you get to experience. And the reason why, like, I come out and the reason why I'm speaking here also is because I feel there's one and only one reason why I'm doing all of this, and talking about my past in the SF and all this, because I feel that the experiences that we have had of how to handle chaos, of what to do in situations like these are extreme situations, and everybody goes through a lot of ups and downs, and that's what life is all about, right? Joy, sorrow, chaos, order, this, that, success, failure, vagera vagera. So we face all of this in a very extreme way where it's simply life and death. It's like if you're in a business and you're doing a business, or ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा, कोई मरेगा तो नहीं ना. Like, you may lose money, you may become infamous, or people may not like you, people may judge you, this, that, but nobody's going to come and kill you. Or none of your friends are going to die. Your team is not, nobody's going to die if you make a mistake. Out there, that's how it is. The SF is, you make a mistake, somebody's going to die. And like worse, somebody might get maimed for life. Death के बाद क्या है, रिलीज है. But लाइफ में अगर पैरालाइज हो गए, गोलियां गलत जगह लग गई, बहुत लोग होता है स्पाइनल कॉर्ड में लग जाती हैं, खोपड़ी में लग जाती है, ये हो जाता है. पीपल लूज देयर मेमोरी, दे फॉरगेट हु देयर मदर इज, फादर इज, वाइफ इज, चिल्ड्रन आर.
You've seen that?
Yeah, very much.
Because of getting shot in the head?
Yeah.
You've been around someone who has gotten...
Yeah.
Okay. I was under the... do you want to explain that situation?
Yeah, but so operations, basically there is enemy, there is you, and you are enemy for that person, enemy is enemy for you. Everybody thinks everybody is enemy, right? So everybody is like looking at each other, and then then ops go on, and you go and have established contact with the enemy, and sometimes you make mistakes, right? So somebody made some mistake or whatever, you can call it mistake, you can call it experience, whatever, but something happened where basically there was contact, and this guy was a very young soldier, one of the most fantastic soldiers I've met in my life. What a soul, what a lovely soul. I mean, if you meet him out on the street, you will feel yaar, अरे कितना सूफी बंदा है, कितना प्यारा बंदा है. But he's like deadly in combat, built for that. मतलब उसका attitude, soul, वो सब aligned. He's so pure, so open, so this thing that, I mean, he could be a saint and he's a soldier. वाला कहानी है. तो बेसिकली आमना सामना हो गया. कई बार ऐसे ऑपरेशंस में आमना सामना हो जाता है. तो आमना सामना हो गया, you're like in front of, and just everything happens very suddenly. From zero silence where you can just hear some birds and you can just hear the wind in the trees and in the breeze in the leaves, all of that. You're from there, and sudden chaos, sudden thunk, where everything goes to shit. So it happens. So it happened to this young man, and basically he had a head-on contact, and that guy fired first because this guy was in a position of disadvantage, and the bullet basically hit his bulletproof, and like ricocheted off the bulletproof, and the bulletproof collapsed and cracked his skull, and basically his eye popped out.
A helmet?
Yeah.
So there... okay, is it like
It's like a heavy metal ring which you wear over your head. So it hit the it hit it and ricocheted or glanced off it, but the impact of the bullet hitting the metal was so much that the metal collapsed itself. So the metal, that heavy metal plate collapsed and cracked his skull with such impact that his eye popped out and was basically hanging here. And this guy, after that, killed that guy. Like,
Really?
yeah,
Okay. With the eye popping out.
yeah. So instant you reflex. It's all reflex. So wo ho gaya, and then obviously he was saved. They were able to extract him out, and then he went to hospital, military hospital, got treated. Da 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 da. For many months, a very handsome boy. So maybe a handsome young man. So not a boy. So this guy was. For many months he was just going to get married, and he was already engaged, and his mom was there, and in hospital he didn't remember anyone. He just forgot everyone. All his memories got washed out basically of his family and things like that, and he didn't know who he is, where he is, who is everyone, what is he doing here. तो वैसा हो गया था. And many months later, basically धीरे 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 उसकी memory started bubbling back in, so for many months he was lost. He was just lost, and I met him actually after that. So from being a very slim, all muscle, good soul, happy, हम free time में cricket खेलते थे साथ में and things like that. So I came to meet him. I came back to my unit to meet him, and I sat with him, and just to spend some time with him and see how he's doing. It's like you love your people, I came back to meet him and see how he's doing and all that. And I just asked him, I wanted to know how much money he has in his wallet. So I asked him for his wallet कि अपना कि पैसा वैसा है तो ठीक है, ये वैसे करके मैंने मैं दिखा, अपना वॉलेट दिखा, तेरे पास पैसे कितने हैं. तो मैंने उसका वॉलेट खोला, तो पैसे तो खैर क्या देखा है नहीं देखा. I saw photographs. I saw 6-7 photographs of himself, which he had kept inside. So all of those photographs were of the time from before he got shot. So he used to sit and look at his own photographs, that earlier I used to look like this and now I look like this. His entire face was disfigured. He lost his eye and this, that, and the engagement broke up, and so many things happened. And so ये होता है, these are the prices one pays. तो ये है.
How is he looking at life now?
Well, बंदा जिंदा दिल है ना, जिंदा दिल है इसलिए वैसा था. And क्या बोलते हैं, he is a person who is full of life and in flow and very simple, heartful, and very open. And from that openness came his courage and things like that. But somehow, it's like your neural network. Some networks got disfigured, broken, and some other formed and things like that. So the perception of his life had shifted about who he is, and how he looks now, and how people look at him, and what is his use from being a super soldier to being somebody who's given a cushy, like a simple position, like he's running. There's something called a CSD in the it's like a canteen where there are various products that people can buy. It's run by the unit itself. So that person was given a place there, and from being a super soldier to actually sitting and just helping people sell t-shirt, selling stuff in the canteen, and maintaining records of what's being sold and handling the money and things like that. So he was quite heartbroken, and he was his perception of life was not as vibrant and as open and as happy and as in the flow as it was when I met him after this. And then many years later I met him again, but the heart is what it is, and it adjusts and adapts over a period of time, and then again starts showing itself. Over a period of time you're able to recover back to who you actually are. So he's happy now. He's accepted a lot of things about Yewo and all that. And in fact, he was such a pristine, pure person, no smoking, no alcohol, no nothing. Well, just a good man, good human being, just chill, always happy, and always in the always in the lead of combat, always in the lead everywhere. कुछ करा लो उससे, क्रिकेट खिला लो वैसे ही खेलेगा, ऑपरेशन करा लो वैसे ही करेगा, एनीथिंग व्हाटएवर यू डू ही वुड डू विद very with lot of happiness and presence, with a very light heart. But after this, I saw his heart has grown heavy, and he would judge himself, and since he's a person who would not blame the world, he would look at himself, and all his angst and all his uh, all his sense of what's gone wrong would be directed within. So that was his immediate state after a couple of months, when he got his memory back to a certain extent. Something had changed. But then many years later, when I met him again, so he was, he had come back to a lot of where he was, how he used to be. So yeah, ऐसे से होता है.
What's the spiritual aspect of being a soldier? I know this is something you've marinated a lot in your head. I couldn't ask you this the last time. Especially when life has trained you to be capable of doing what you're doing as a super soldier. And then life shows you all these moments. It's gotta change a man's soul in some format. And maybe your soul descended to this realm with some kind of intention of wanting to experience something more extreme than usual.
The spiritual aspect of being a soldier. So ultimately, everything is spiritual only. Everything is coming from out of something. And we experience the material world basically your spirit becomes more dense, your energy or wherever that thing is coming from, it becomes dense. And in that denseness is where matter is happening, and people are experiencing each other and circumstances, and there are joys and sorrows and goals and targets and failures and successes and all that goes on in life. Likes and dislikes, hate, judgment, acceptance, love, happiness, all of these things are what make up life. It's a denser format where all of these things happen, and basically energy at a denser vibration creating matter and all of that jazz. So in the special forces or in the military, in the armed forces, anywhere in the world, people who are constantly going into this life and death wala jo hota hai, there's a barrier, right? There's a barrier where you reach ki yaar ye kaam karne se to if I do this I might die wala, at some point you will. And at some point, so basically the chances of you losing your life, losing your limb, becoming maimed or whatever, the chances are just always there. It's like a 50-50, if you may say. Every time you go out of your base, it's a 50-50. हो भी सकता है, नहीं भी हो सकता है. So it's just a matter of a mind which is calculating ki, is it a 30-40 or is it a 30-70 or is it a 50-50 or what? All these things happen in the brain. But when you go out, you forget about all of these things. Ki what are the chances of this happening? What are the chances of that happening? You don't exist in duality. All life, all experiences happens in duality. There is black and then there is white, and then there's all the shades in between that black and white, and that's life, right? Be it emotionally, be it physically, be it circumstantially, whichever way, relationships, love, emotion, whatever. But when you go out of your base, you have to cross this. You have to basically cross your mind. You have to let go of your mind, and when you go out, you focus completely in the now. There is no past, there is no future, there is only the now and what you're going to do in the now and what you have to do in the now and where are you going. So in that flow state, spirit and matter and all the blacks and the whites and the grays and all of that becomes singular. And that singularity, basically you, the Brahman, the universe, this, that, all things are there, but they don't exist also. And in between, you are operating.
Are you able to form memories? Like in your battles? Like you're able to register everything you're witnessing?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I would assume
The relevant things. Hard disk है, उतना space है, उसमें क्या क्या भरोगे? So things which are relevant. So we pick up. So there's an infinite amount of information that's always floating around your brain, your mind. your 5 senses plus there's a 6th sense, and I don't know beyond that, but 6 senses तो है. 5 senses आपके physical body के अंदर हैं, connected to your mind, body, central nervous system, etc., etc. And then there's a 6th sense. It's an instinct. People call it instinct. है ना? So what happens is when you cross this, when you let go of duality, of whether will I live or will I die or what will happen and all these things, you just let go and then you go out. Because if you're carrying all of that shit, if you're carrying your past, you're carrying, everybody has good experiences and bad experiences in life, and if you carry all of that into combat or into chaos, because either you are going to create chaos or chaos is going to happen to you. That is sure कि chaos तो होगा. या तो आप करोगे chaos या आपके साथ होगा. It's whichever way. So when you go out, that's where the connect between spirit or the spiritual aspect of your existence opens up, because you have to enter into that dimension where chaos is existing, and you go in there with, it's like a surrender basically. To conquer, you surrender wala kahani hai. You surrender, you accept, you become aware, and then you become focused, and then you go into a flow, and then you go and either create chaos or destroy that chaos.
Okay.
Like that.
To give more context to the listeners, there was something you said on the show the last time. You said that every time you were actually a part of a battle scenario, you knew before the battle happened that today something will happen.
Yeah, that happened over a period of time. That's where the 6th sense thing is coming from.
So you developed your intuition over the course of your military career?
I didn't develop it. I had no idea that something like this exists. I had no opinions about 6th sense or even inkling that something like, I had heard about it, I'd read about it, or whatever ki hota hai. People have experiences. They can predict something before it happens and things like that. There are many saints who do that, right? Yeah,
Small question before.
Please.
Within battle scenarios, before moves happened from the enemy side, were you able to predict the enemy's move?
So I'll answer it very simply. It's not about the enemy or about you or whatever. It is about knowing that something is going to happen. You just know it. And it happens over a period of time. Slowly, that instinct starts getting developed. It's like a new neural network forming, which creates a certain dimension where now you in material form can experience something that hasn't happened. It hasn't happened only.
Break down this, like you could see it?
Earlier, so again, like I said, I started realizing this after a long period of time, that I'm consciously, like, somewhere what is happening and what I am is a connect. That's how I know about it. It hasn't happened only. How do you know about it? So over a period of time, because like I said, you have to surrender to go in. You have to give up all idea of past and future, of life and death, and of love and all the various things that you're carrying in your brain. You have to let go of all of that and completely focus and go in. So when you go into that space is where, the spiritual realm, or there's no other way to describe it. But when you go into that space where आपकी ना बहुत सारी इंद्रियां खुल जाती हैं basically. So you become aware. So when you become aware, and that's when then these kind of things start pouring into your consciousness. It happens over a period of time. You start realizing it after a long time. For some people, probably depending on how open they are. For some people, it can happen in the first go itself. For some people, it may happen after many years in combat. And for some people, it may never happen. I know a lot of people have been in combat over a long period of time, but they've never been able to, the 6th sense hasn't opened up. So to be specific, earlier I could feel it, right? Ki something is going to happen, but I couldn't say what's going to happen. And then a little later, as time and as experience kept expanding, at some point I could just get up after a couple of days of sitting in a mountain, in a forest somewhere, and just get up and hone wala hai, like that. 5-6 hours before.
5-6 hours before?
Yeah.
Maybe you're not even in the vicinity of the enemy at that point.
Yeah.
But you just knew 5-6 hours before that the information would just come to your mind.
Yeah, you just get it.
I'm going to try comparing this to a very civilian scenario. As a content creator now, 8 years in, if I'm using Instagram Reels, and I use Instagram Reels because it's my fuel in order to create content for the future, which is going to pay my bills going forward.
Roger that.
Okay? So I'm using Instagram Reels. I hear a song. I close my eyes. and I think of exactly what I want the content piece to be around that song. And I know that, oh, if I just saw this visual in my head, I know it's going to do well. And that's the closest I've come to experiencing intuition within my own work field, and I can feel it building over time.
Efficiency.
As in?
It's efficiency.
Efficiency, yeah. Better pattern recognition, better.
So people operate on their five senses, right? They're operating on the five senses. They make calculations based on their five senses. But your mind is always limited because it's not aware of everything. So whatever you are aware of, basis that you make decisions, you make calculations, you make decisions, you take action. So when people expand their, like when I see the books that you're reading, the kind of people that you interview on your podcast, the kind of experiences that you have shared with me about your life and things like that. So basically you are from gross reality, you are becoming lighter and lighter and going into a spirit, if lack of a better word, you're going into, I don't want to talk mumbo jumbo basically.
You can,
so
if
I
you
will
wish.
use no, a lot of people may not get it, so there's no point then. So simply you like I said, you become dense and come into material reality. And once you are basically doing what your heart desires, and the more you keep doing what your heart desires, what experience you are seeking, and that starts opening your full potential like that, and you become lighter and lighter and lighter, and then you expand into a realm where space and time and energy and all of these things are actually one, and then you can decide how to manifest it.
You download information from a higher place.
It's ultimately you only. It's just we think we are the mind, where everybody is defined, all of us define ourselves basis an I am this, I like this, I don't like that, I want to do this, I don't want to do that. There's an I. So where is that I? That I is in your mind. It's the tendency of the mind, the tendency of how our brain has formed, how a neural network has formed, how we have grown up in this society, in this environment, in this world, basis which an I forms, right? There's a DNA also involved. You're carrying your ancestral memory in that, and वगैरह वगैरह. तो एक बहुत ही a very dense I forms, and you believe you are that I, and that is what your limitation is. So that I is in your brain, in your mind, right? After a lot of experience, after a lot of things, for some people it may happen earlier, for some people it never happens, for some people like me it happens after a long time or whatever. But when it happens, so uh, you start losing this I that you have decided who you are, and that once the more you lose that I is when the real you starts opening up, and that place, that real you that is actually opening up, which is, let's call it source, let's call it spirit, let's call it
God.
ultimate or supreme consciousness or whatever it may be, so your I dissolves and you go into that state, and that's the state where time, space, energy are all happening simultaneously. And then that's where you can actually go into a space of awareness where something that has not actually happened at all, you have already predicted कि ऐसा होने वाला है.
A very practical, actionable here is reduce your ego. I personally believe work towards it from spiritual ways like meditation, calming down, etc. Being in a flow state constantly or for prolonged periods of time, creating a lot if you're a creative professional, or being in a physical flow state like how you guys used to be. Another very raw question for you. Do you believe in the law of karma?
Yes and no.
Okay, hold this thought. I've asked some special forces vets about this. You know what I'm going to ask you.
No, please go ahead. No, I don't.
You're not able to predict.
I don't need to.
What is the karma of taking another human being's life when your duty is to take another human being's life?
So all of this is my opinion.
Sure.
My opinion based on the experiences that I've had, and the reason why I'm sharing it is so that hopefully people can relate to it, and maybe it may do some good in life. So karma is as far as I'm concerned, or what I have understood, is simply this, that karma exists for those whose neural network is formed like that, and for them karma is real. Cause and effect is real. It is real. But for people who have, or consciousnesses which have zoomed out of that, for them karma is not real. It is an illusion like everything else. real illusion. So for that which is in, for that consciousness which is denser and which is steeped in this, for lack of in Maya, right? So whichever consciousness is, which is dense and limited and pointed, and it's there for them, karma is, for those, karma is real. They believe in it, they understand, and everything in this material world does operate on cause and effect. So a lot of people who believe in karma, and it's like a losing battle. This is a world of karma. You will do karma, and for some people that karma will be good, and for some people that karma will not be good. For example, as far as combat, if I relate it to combat, for one person, from one perspective, the other person is an enemy, right? From that enemy's perspective, I am also his enemy, right? And uh, uh, and then there's a third person who will say that, oh, that guy is a hero and that guy is a villain, right? And then there'll be other person from that fellow's country who will say, no, that guy is a villain and that guy is a hero. So it's a perception. Karma is also ultimately a perception. So basically, what is reality? Reality is what you perceive, what your individual consciousness, how it adds up. It's like you can put put uh, the same set of colors, let's say three colors, blue, green, red, and the same paintbrush, and you can give it to three different people and they'll paint three different pictures. Okay, so karma is like that.
Do soldiers have this personal question to themselves at any point? I'm sure there are some who might.
There must be some who might, right? And at some point, like even I had a thing at some point. I had no thought of karma or no knowledge of karma or anything like that. I just used to do what needs to be done.
Duty.
Yeah, that's where life has brought you, or what you have chosen, or whatever, and then you are there. And then at some point, you realize ki yaar, when you look at the world and you come and you reflect back on your life and you digest what has happened, and then in new light, like you said that when we met the last time, you were raw, you were growing to a certain point. And today, when you, from there when we met last time and today where we are, you have a very different perspective about life, right? It's just more evolved, more open, more flow. You're lesser of a personality involved, and yet there is more of you which has come out, right? So similarly is it's like that. uh, there are people who carry regret and guilt and things like that for a variety of reasons in life. Special forces soldiers or military soldiers may carry it for some reasons. People in the civil world may carry it for some reasons, or whatever. But ultimately, it's a perspective. Everything is a perspective, and your perspective is your reality. That's it.
I honestly feel so. Like, our podcast has not even begun yet. This conversation has not begun yet.
Mhm.
Partially because after a very long time, we're doing an English military podcast.
Okay.
And a lot of our newer audiences have probably not seen our old stuff, which is why before we move forward into the show, there is a topic I always discuss with Special Forces vets, and that's animals. I feel you'll have an extremely different relationship with wild animals as compared to people on CV Street. What is CV Street, according to you? What is?
Different profession, that's all.
Okay.
With different goals, different targets, different experiences.
Non-armed forces.
Yeah, the nature on the so in the armed forces, it's purely about destruction at the end of the day. And destruction, because destruction create that ability to destroy. When it is exercised, ability is there, right? With the standing army that India has, and with the standing armed forces that India has, or any nation has, it's a capability to destroy the enemy, or destroy something, or this or that. So, and then that capability is exercised sometimes, but it's all about destruction, and that destruction is the other half of creation, right? So wo hai, but in the CV Street there's a mix of everything, you know. You don't have to go around destroying things, just make things or whatever. I say,
I don't think people on CV Street understand how in sync with nature armed forces personnel are. Because there's so much more out there.
Mm.
And in some ways, y'all are living the kind of life that the human body and mind and soul is possibly meant to live,
Mm.
which is actually out there nature away from cities.
Mm.
Let's begin this tangent with a story you had once told me about a
Mm.
bear that you had come across.
Mm.
You told me this the last time I was in Oroville.
Mm.
It was the first time I was ever speaking to a Special Forces vet,
Mm.
and it blew me away.
Mm.
So
Mm.
let's give it to the audiences as well.
कुछ नहीं है. So you are like when you come in the city street, when you come to your office spaces or in in the buildings and in the cities, there's no wildlife here, like especially no wildlife that can kill you, like a leopard or a bear or whatever, है ना. चिड़िया चिड़िया होगा, there'll be some birds and this and that, maybe some dogs and this and that, but that's about it. And that too, you're so busy in your life that you generally don't have time for observing a bird or observing a dog or something, seeing what its life is like that and things like that. But the nature of our work in the army, in the military, in the armed forces, especially in the special forces, you're always out there in midst of raw nature. It's like just raw. उसके आगे कुछ है नहीं, मतलब वहाँ पे मतलब वाइल्ड लाइफ फिल्म मेकर्स भी नहीं आ रहे हैं.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a combat zone. And combat zone is happening in these kind of areas, high altitude mountains and deep forests and things like that, away from civilization, है ना. So away from civilization, and as it is, cities have such expanded, and humanity has expanded where we have chopped up our forests, and we have, created a different reality other than nature. And so all this wildlife doesn't have space to stay here, so it concentrates itself into forests and things like that, whichever is left. So our work is there. So since our work is there, we are operating in the same space where wild animals are there. Nature in its full form is there. You're midst of nature, and in not only just physically, but you're or it takes time to understand this. Like for us, it took me a long time to reflect back and understand how it is happening. But we merge with nature not only at a physical level, but we merge with nature also at a very deeper consciousness level or awareness level, if you may say. So because all life has awareness in it, right? It's different levels of it, different approaches to the same consciousness. So the first time I experienced it was these are all reflections. उस time पे कुछ नहीं चल रहा होता है. You just see, and what is actionable you act on it, what is not actionable you let it pass. ऐसे होता है. So I was sitting in some mountain, in some forested mountain in top of some place, and it was we operate mostly only at night only, in complete darkness. So and we operate in buddy pairs, like two guys, like that. So me and my buddy were sitting on this very, very extremely dangerous place, and we were we were doing a job that we had come for, and it was all about waiting. So
Dangerous because of human beings.
yeah, so it's like enemy or whatever. So you're sitting there and you're waiting. So at that point of time, it was my turn. So we give sentry duties, right? Guard. So because you have to sleep as well. So we have like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the kind of threat perception there is there, and depending on the kind of operation, depending on the kind of circumstances, your length of duty expands or contracts, whatever. What is the need of that particular op? So I was sitting there, and it was my turn, and I was बैठा हुआ था, and I had a night vision goggle hanging around my neck, and my weapon was on my lap, and like you sit in a yoga position, and you fold your legs and you sit like that. So I was sitting like that, and on my lap was my weapon, and I was staring into the darkness. There was a particular place I had to look at, and I was just constantly just looking at that and waiting. So my buddy was asleep, and maybe hour and a half had passed, and I was just waiting and waiting, and I heard some noise right next to me, like a foot away or something, 2 feet away or whatever. So I just heard a noise. So I couldn't see, it was pitch black. So I switched on my night vision goggles, and ऐसे मैंने ऐसे check किया, and I turned to look, and I saw this leopard sitting right next to me. So like where this flower pot is. So उसको ऐसे देखा, and that's the first time I saw a leopard, like, and मतलब मैंने शायद zoo में भी I have not seen a leopard or whatever. So I saw this fellow sitting right next to me, and he was staring at the same place I was staring at for the last hour and a half. He was also looking there only.
How far was he?
Just
Less
here.
than a
He
meter.
was sitting here, yeah, less than a meter. So just sitting there. He was sitting on his haunches and he was upright and he was just sitting and look. He was just looking at where I was looking.
One leopard next to another leopard.
I don't know, one animal next to another animal. so uh, I saw this fellow like this, and then I took the night vision goggle and my weapon was pointing ahead. So I turned my weapon's barrel towards this fellow and switched the safety off and put my finger on the trigger and waited. If it kills me or if it attacks me, I'll kill it first. I was just sitting and waiting. And about 4 or 5 minutes, I just kept sitting there and then slowly got up and walked off. And so that's one thing. And then when I reflected back, I realized that where we were operating, there were a lot of scorpions, there were snakes, there were this, but and we're constantly in that kind of terrain, and we never got bitten. No snake has bitten me, no scorpion has bitten me, nothing. And very, very, very rare is it that somebody gets bitten by something or something gets attacked. Hota hai. It happens. There have been bears who have attacked our team. There's my second in command was there. He was attacked by a bear. The bear climbed, basically got onto it and was trying to catch his neck.
Hold this whole story. I'm so sorry, listeners.
Please.
But dial it back to the leopard.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the bear as well.
Yeah, please.
See, this is so difficult as a podcaster right now because I want to
carry
know.
on.
What were you thinking about with the leopard?
I wasn't thinking anything. If it attacks, then I will have to kill it.
What's the consciousness exchange there?
So it's like in the world, like for example, you and me, right? When you have a different life, I have a different life, you're doing different things, I'm doing different things, etc., etc. But when we come and sit in one space, we find what's common amongst us and we settle into that commonality, and a new dimension opens where we can be one and do the same thing, head in the same direction.
What's happening on this podcast?
Yes. So exactly is how is that leopard and me were sitting. He was also peaceful with me. I was not an anomaly in his environment, and obviously he was not an anomaly. He or she, I don't know, was not an anomaly in her environment. He was just sitting. So we were both in alignment, both in peace, and both just looking at the same thing.
But animals can sense fear.
So animals, I believe, or I don't know if it's right or wrong, but what I believe is that animals have lesser bullshit to think about, right? So animals don't think all these things ki kal kya hai, what happened, going to happen tomorrow, what happened yesterday, what is going to happen 1 hour from now, nothing. They operate on instinct, and instinct is where the spiritual dimension or the real dimension really lies. So they operate beyond judgment. They have no judgment of right and wrong, good and bad, happy and sad, and all of these things. They just do what they do, what they're built for, and they play out that. So they, in a way, people would say that animals are a lower consciousness, but my opinion is that animals are a more relaxed and more higher consciousness. That's why they don't carry. Compare an animal with a yogi, for example, right? Like a spiritual person, like a saint or a master or a Buddha or whatever. So what does spirituality really say? Spirituality says, get out of your mind. That's what it says. So when your mind melts away and dissolves off, you are left with what you are. There is no duality of God and human. There is no concept of God and human. It centers out into what you are, and then that opens up new realms of magic and dimensions and vagera vagera. And so animals also don't have too many thoughts. I suppose they are operating on instinct. So they don't. Where does the so-called Maya or the Matrix or whatever lie? It lies in the mind, and it is made up of thoughts. Those thoughts lead to actions, and duality manifests itself into matter as per the kind of thoughts and actions you take. So that's where mind creates matter, or mind creates circumstances, and how those circumstances align and are designed, etc., etc. But animals don't operate like that. Like, animals don't think, they no mind. Right? So what is, there is no duality. What is. So that's how animals are. And when special forces and soldiers, when they are in combat, there is the more advanced, the more experienced an SF guy, you would find him in the moment,
Karma.
not thinking. Because thinking is where tensions lie. Thinking is where limitations are. Thinking is where construct is. Thinking is where the framework or the prison or whatever is of your
That's
own. Yes.
so true.
Yeah. So and so in that particular case, since I was also not thinking, in the leopard was also not thinking, and we were just very much immersed in not only the physical surroundings but in the now of the moment itself. So there was a peace. He was sitting doing his thing, I was sitting doing my thing. And in fact, probably, if I think of it, animals like that don't come uh, so close to human beings. But like an SF soldier, if you see, you would not have taken bath for weeks, 2 3 weeks, you have not cleaned your body, you have not brushed your teeth, you have you matlab, you have sweated so many times, and the smell of the forest itself and everything. So you basically, you are going into your natural state, and you align with nature, you align with the forest itself, you start smelling like the forest. So you're a familiar smell to the animal.
Why don't you give us the softer one, the one about the one that had creeped up on you first, and then we'll move on to the other one.
So
And give a little 101 on Indian bears as well. What people don't know about bears.
bears are bears are bears are bears. So, so bear it's a wild animal. It operates on instinct. It's part of its nature. It is not wearing clothes and having ideas about what life should be in its head and what is right and wrong and all. It's just a bear. So so bears, they look very cute and all of that, but when you see one real, like, without any barrier in between, they can be extremely terrifying. And they are extremely, the way they look is absolutely different to what they can do. They can tear a person apart. They have extreme amount of strength in them, extremely long sharp claws. With one swipe, they can take off your scalp, they can take off the entire face of your, skin of your face off. It's like that, just one swipe. They're very long nails that they have, their claws basically, and then their teeth and things like that, and extreme amount of power and speed. So it's a it can be extremely dangerous.
Most dangerous animal in Indian forests?
Danger depends on what manifests. No, scorpion can make your life very very terrible if it bites you, and a leopard can come and sit next to you and walk off, and it's not dangerous. So most dangerous would be like a mother bear, a bear with cubs. So if a bear has got, like, she has cubs, and she's most likely to attack. Otherwise, she may let you pass. So it's like that. In fact, uh, I've I've had encountered bears in a couple of occasions, but this one was like the mother bear. She had two cubs, and we expected her to attack, but she didn't. She just coolly walked off with her cubs. She was walking on her side, and then she left. So somewhere there's an alignment between wild animals and special forces or soldiers, if you may.
Maybe they're able to sense your collective consciousness as a team.
Yeah. So there's, I suppose, in that particular place or in that particular situation, that particular circumstance, with what we are doing and what a bear is doing, uh, is very close to what nature is. So therefore there is no conflict. So they just go about, and they can also sense by our movement, because they have an olfactory system which can pick up fear and things like that, can pick up the chemical being released in the air and things like that. So, but since there is no fear, they also sense. So they understand that this is something not to be messed around with. unless they're like with a cub or something like that, very likely to attack anything. So, and they judge by body language, this judge by smell, and so many things. So overall picture that an SF soldier would be giving to a bear would be, don't fuck around with me. You do your shit, I do my shit. So we both go around doing whatever we are doing, and we don't clash until in certain situations you come in the way of a bear or she has cubs. So this particular thing, so we were operating somewhere and we were high up in some mountain, and then we had to go down from that mountain and then observe a certain area to see what's going on there. So at night when we left our base and started going down the mountain, and there was an apple orchard. We were passing by that apple orchard, must have been around 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So there was these people, villagers sitting in the apple orchard with, having lit fires and this. And I remember thinking that, why are these guys sitting in this apple orchard at this time of the night? Why are they there? Why are they not there in their houses? And like we had to obviously avoid them and then go further deep down and da da da. So we came to a small, like a place where we had like pinpointed, okay, we have to reach here and then wait. So we reached there in the middle of like maybe around 3-4 in the morning. We reached that particular place and we sat and waited. And then as dawn was breaking, so I had to find a specific point from where we could, conduct our surveillance or watch and observe or whatever. So I told the guys, ki, wait, I'll go and see. So I took my weapon and I started roaming around in that forest looking for a place where I could get a good viewpoint. So if you see if this is the top where we were sitting, we had come down from, like this is here was the apple orchard, and we reached here, and then here was the target that we had to survey. And I started moving from here like this through these, like I was going cross around the mountain like that. And at one, I suddenly arrived at a cave, a small cave, and I saw that cave, and there was a like a thick mattress of dry grass which had been kept and was looking like somebody has made a bed. So, and it was obviously someone has made it. It's not natural. Someone has collected all of this thing and made a very comfortable bed inside this cave. And there was this big, huge lump of shit lying next to it. So I was looking at that and I was thinking, yeah, this is not human shit. Obviously, who will shit so much? And there was seeds in it and all that, things like that. So I was not able to figure out.
Sounds like my ex-girlfriend. Sorry, go on.
Ooh.
Go on.
I don't think she's going to be very happy about that.
Sorry. Joke thi yaar. Okay, go on.
So, I was just wondering, what is this karke? But I didn't have time to sit and think too much, and I was beginning to feel that, it's not a safe place, but I had to look further ahead. So I left that and I like went a little further and I found a place. This was the edge of a cliff, and there was just a little space for all of us to just 5-6 of us to sit in one very tight spot, and from there, but there was an entire like a viewpoint. So I came back and then we sat through the whole day, and then at night we slowly moved into that place, and then we sat down, and I was sitting in the lead, and my legs were hanging off the cliff, and I had a big fat thermal imager on my lap, and I was basically looking at all the movement that was going on with the thermal imager. Somewhere around maybe 9:30, 10:30, around that time, early night, I started hearing a heavy movement, like something very, very heavy, or multiple people moving through the forest below us. But I couldn't see inside the forest. So I thought that there's some, enemy coming or whatever, and we were all just getting ready. And then suddenly, out into the open come these two big bears below us, about maybe 80 feet or so, 100 feet below us. And they started moving up right towards us. And they kept climbing up, and then finally they reached right in front of us. Let's say where this door is, maybe another half distance more than this door. That much distance, these two bears came up, and then one bear stood up, and then he smelt us. So he smelt us, and then stopped, and then it left. I realized that that cave that I saw was these bears' cave, and I'm sitting on their path. So the bear tried to first climb up. He decided to avoid us and then started to climb up and then got stuck in the cliff upper, came down. The other bear kept waiting there. That bear came down and then went down and tried to circle us and then climb up from there, got stuck there also. And it came back down and reached the same point, and then it stood up there and charged. So it gave a full charge like that, and we were all sitting in one line like this, and I was like right in front, and there was a cliff on which I was. There was no space. There was no running away, no nothing. So as it charged, so I lifted my weapon up and like came full on, and it was like, as you are probably around here, it was standing in front of me and it was roaring into my face.
It stopped 2 meters away from you.
Yeah, just like even closer than this. It just charged straight away, full charge. It came and then like stood up and roared, like spit was falling like that.
But it didn't attack you.
Yeah, so it all happens like that, no. So I had the weapon up, and in fact that day I was the first time I had carried some fancy weapon into that operation. The bullets were small. So, and then plus if you open fire, there's the whole valley will ring with the sound of gunfire. So all that you have done till now, everybody will know you are there. So the op is gone. So I was waiting for the last this thing. I didn't want to harm it also. I didn't want the surprise also to be gone. Nothing. And that weapon which was there in my hand had a small bullet. So I knew if I press and it doesn't die, then it will tear me apart and 2-3 more. Right? So we got stuck there in that moment. It was roaring, and I had my weapon right at its head and waiting. So the guy behind me, he was a local guy. He was SF soldier, but local. So we were sitting back to back. His back was against my back. So he switched around, put his weapon on my shoulder, and there's this button you press, and there's a red laser light which comes out. So he flashed it in its eyes as it was roaring. So he flashed in his eyes and got scared. Like
just because of the light.
Yeah, because of the red light beam on his flashing in his eye. So probably got blinded or whatever, and just like kind of stumbled backwards and pushed off. So ये भी होता है.
How do you feel now recalling all these things?
It's a good memory. Like anything could have happened. I wouldn't have been sitting here, or the bear wouldn't have been there.
The same question I asked you about the leopard, I'm going to ask you about the bear. There was an exchange of consciousness. This time, a very aggressive exchange of consciousness.
Yeah.
What was the time duration between when it started charging and this laser moment?
Yeah, 5 seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
What went on in your head in those 5 seconds? Just flow state again?
No, I was absolutely a simple thing. If it swipes, it was in a position to swipe. It had already opened up like this and it was roaring, and the next thing is its hand will come for a swipe. So I was in that point of balance where if the swipe happens, I'll press. If it doesn't happen, then the op still goes on. So I was waiting, and this guy went cut, and all fear, all of that just vanishes, and you are in the moment. So there is no emotions, there is no this, that, nothing. At least that's how I experienced it. Different people have different experiences, different circumstances. But at that point of time, there is no fear. There is no space for fear.
This is Special Forces training talking here. I don't know if a civilian would react like that. Maybe a civilian would get frozen.
It's also about not having a choice, no? either kill or be killed, and then that space in between.
When it was roaring, what was on in your head?
Nothing. I was just totally focused on its swipe. किस हाथ से swipe हरकत होगा और मैं दबा दूंगा. So it was like that. That's all. I was there.
Okay.
Uh.
There are many more animal questions I have. We have to take a pause from this intensity for a bit. This is sort of the new format of the show. While I want to talk to you so much more about animals and combat, I think that this particular round that we have will help me navigate through the rest of the podcast better. Even though I know you as a friend, we've spoken so much.
Yeah.
It's called Ajio's Keep It Casual round.
Okay.
More relaxed questioning for a bit. Just to break the intensity.
Yeah.
So again, it's not a rapid fire round, but you can keep your answers short.
Yeah.
I will ask you tangential questions, and there are some questions about animals as well.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready, sir?
Yeah.
Major Vivek Jacob on Ajio's Keep It Casual round. Sir, what word comes to your mind when you hear the following words? Weapon.
Destruction.
Victory.
Realization of self.
Leadership.
Truth.
Struggle.
Reality.
Brotherhood.
Love.
Fashion.
Special forces. Nowadays.
War.
War. Unnecessary necessity.
Oof. Love.
Existence, reason for existence.
Who is your personal favorite superhero and why?
Wolverine.
Very apt. But why?
Why? Well, because he has a heart. B, he's detached. Yeah.
Okay.
C, he has got claws. D, he's indestructible.
Okay.
But the only thing is, he can't die. That's the problem. He should be able to die.
3 movies that impacted your life
Okay.
and why?
3 movies that impacted my life. All movies kind of impact in some way or the other, so I really can't say which movie would have impacted my life. I can tell you the books that have impacted my life.
Sure.
Yeah. So, Autobiography of a Yogi. So that's the first, like a spiritual book that I read, the first and the last. I tried to read many spiritual books after that, but just I would read the index and get it. So, no interest to go any further. But Autobiography of a Yogi is what I read end to end without stopping. That's one book. And I didn't realize at that point of time that what impact what it's going to have. I just read it and I understood that whatever this person has written has happened. He's experienced his life like this. He's not lying or making it up. It is what this person has experienced. And if this person has experienced that, then life is very, very different from what we perceive it to be. So I read it, but at that point of time didn't realize what it's done to me. Maybe much later, slowly, when I've reflected back, that was probably an initiation. All the experiences and that reading that book kind of, led to something higher. So that was one book. The other book that made an impact was Papillon. So Papillon is about it's a true story about this guy who escaped from prison, I think 9 times or something like that. So his life, so how his spirit of freedom, he got out of impossible situation, and every time he kept getting caught, the punishment kept getting higher and higher and higher and higher. But yet he kept doing it and doing it, and went till the time he finally escaped. So Papillon was the second one. Third book was Ayn Rand. So Ayn Rand is Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. These 2 things. And actually in that particular book, there is this line, where the central character, so to speak, he's a nobody, and he looks at the world and he sees how things are, and he gets whatever happens to him and this, that, and he he just says it out one day that I'll stop the turning of this world, so that thing. And then his story, how it goes, that's the third book I would strongly recommend. And then there is Mysteries of the Unexplained. That's by it's a like a coffee table book by Reader's Digest. That had a deep impact on me. I read it when I was very, very small.
Like about aliens and ghosts?
About what is existing in our world which cannot be explained or not being explained by science.
Okay.
So there are anomalies in our world which don't fit the matrix. They are like glitches in the matrix, if you may say. There is no logicality behind their existence, but yet very much they are there.
Okay.
They prove entire history wrong. They prove science wrong. They prove everything wrong. And the very fabric of how we perceive our world is destroyed by their existences.
Okay.
So that's a book which lays out all of these various anomalies which are around the world, which are existing. That would one thing I would definitely recommend. And then there's this book called The Amphibian. So The Amphibian, it's like a fiction, but that. And then I think the first book that I ever read in my life, I was like, my father had a lot of collection of books and things like that. So there was this book called Robos of Dawn. So I was in class 2 or something when I found that book inside his box. It was this fatter book and it had a fancy looking robot on top of it. It was written by Isaac Asimov. He's a science fiction writer. So that's the first book I read in my life, and that was a profound book for me at that age, because it just split the universe wide open of what all could exist. It fired my imagination. And then there was this lady in that book. There was a character in this book it's an advanced world, where multi-planetary world, and various, across the, universe, galaxies, humanity has spread, and extremely high tech and all this AI shit, all this. So there's a robo that's in her house, and she's in love with that robo, and she actually experiences love with an inanimate object. So that kind of shook me when I read it, and I could it was not just science fiction, it was about love itself. That
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the end of the round.
Roger that.
Now back into diving into intensity. When you were exploring the Himalayas, did you ever see anything Ajeeb or Gareeb?
In the Himalayas itself, experiencing any entity and things like that? No. But experiencing a magical space, right? So it's like we were climbing up in a some place. I won't talk about where that place is, because that place will get all crowded up and all that. It's a magical thing, and you'll understand why. So we're climbing, and we were in the forest, and we got lost either udhar. Even though the person who was taking us there, he's also an ex-SF Special Forces guy, only retired. He had found that place, and because he was connected to the villagers, and the villagers used to go there once in 6 months and used to pray there and have a small festival there. It's a high altitude lake. It's the lake I was mentioning. So when we reached that lake, as we came upon that lake, suddenly it comes upon you. It's a big lake, and it's unlike anything one can imagine, or it's unlike anything. It's very difficult to explain it also. It's deep also, yet you can see the surface also. There are layers and layers inside that lake. It's like, I don't know what is there inside, but you can see it, and yet you can't see it. It's like that. And then it's turquoise, blue, green. That's crazy. And then it has got floating patches of thick grass. So when you cross, and there are two very ancient, very humble, very ancient Shiv temples there, and so you have to walk on those grass, and your leg goes in. It's like you can almost sink, and you walk across the grassy patches, and then when you look inside, and you can see these.
Direct your voice into the mic.
Yeah, so you can see these layers and all that, and then, but when we came upon that lake, it's in the middle of a very thick forest in high altitude, tucked away, hidden away, this thing. And when we came upon that lake, we saw two ducks. They were like swimming together on that lake. And the moment I saw those ducks, it's like it's a realization that hits you. You don't think it hits you. So what hit me was these are two gods who have descended in duck form and they're romancing together like that. Yeah. It was extremely like it's very real. So and a couple of set of very amazing things happened over there. And then in the last, what I realized that what I've like again, it's like visions you get. So I was just getting a vision that at this place at night, it's like gods descend here and they romance here. So it's like that. Yeah. An amazing place.
Do you want to talk now about Siachen?
Yeah, we can talk about Siachen.
Okay. Why were you posted there? Because as far as I know, immediately after your NDA training, you were a part of the special forces.
Immediately after NDA IMA.
Yeah.
Training, immediately after training, basically.
And out of everything you saw in your whole career, that was the most intense.
Yeah, that's a difficult place to survive and work in.
Okay.
Extremely difficult place to work in.
How do you even begin to describe that level of cold, those kind of temperatures, to someone who's not experienced it?
But there's this video. I don't know how many people have seen it. There's this video floating around the internet. I saw it some while back. There's this group of Indian soldiers, and they've got various vegetables kept on a table outside the tent, and they got a hammer. And there's like an egg, and they're hitting the egg with the hammer, and nothing is happening to it. They're hitting the potato with the hammer. They're hitting the tomato with a hammer, but it's rock solid. It's that frozen, right? So it's like a stone. Everything becomes like stone there. Like you have water and you throw it, it'll freeze in the air. It's like that. So it's that cold. It's like living inside a fridge.
What if
It's
you
colder
cry
than a
there?
fridge.
If you cry when you're outside?
Kushti, there's often you'll sweat also. And it all starts forming icicles around like that. Everything will collect on your beard and it'll all collect everywhere and it'll become frozen like that.
What does your skin feel? The part of your skin that's exposed?
It's like it burns and then becomes sensationless, like that for some time. Yeah.
Okay. And what else?
So it's just the whole environment. See, ultimately, difficult or not difficult is in your head, right? And of course, it has a lot to do with the reality that you're existing in. It's how you perceive reality is how difficult or easy it would be to exist in any kind of circumstances, including the glacier. The glacier itself is it's full of things that could go wrong. Right? The whole setting it's like that. There could be enemy action. There could, in terms of actual raids, from the enemy. There could be arty shells which are falling there, and like I don't know. You have to be on the receiving side of an artillery shelling to realize what it is. It's terror in supreme form. So
why?
Well, when an artillery shell comes, you can hear it whistle, like when it's flying in the air, and you can hear it whistle like a motor or an arty shell which is coming. So, and when it falls and it explodes, it's the sound of horror. It's like that. It's something you have to hear to understand what it is. So and you're like judging it, and it could fall anywhere. It's anybody's game. You're just sitting, and so if as long as you're hearing it, it's great. As long as you can hear the whistle, means it's going to fly off above you. But if it comes like comes like a whistle and the whistle stops, it's coming for you. It's like I'm going to fall around somewhere. So it's like that. So that's a terrifying place to be in.
You've been a part of it.
I have experienced shelling very, very closely, yes.
And the first
is like my bed. Like if this is my bed, there's an artillery shell which has fallen just outside, hit the tree, and it has exploded. And so what happens is it's some huge piece of metal, right? And metal has got explosive inside it. So when the explosion happens, the metal disintegrates, and the heat generated is so high, the metal melts. So, and it flies in infinite set of directions, and the metal, when it's flying, it's the edges are molten, so it becomes like razor blades. It's all razor blades flying around. It's like that. So this is my bed. So just above one line like that, there was an entire line of sharpness which was just hit above the wall above my bed. So that's the closest I've been. Mm. But more than that, see, death happens in combat and in this thing. It happens instantaneously. It's not the death that's the problem. It's before that that's the problem. So when shelling starts off, and that time you can hear it flying, boom, 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 happening, and then you can hear the boom, boom, boom coming closer as the they focus onto somebody guides the artillery fire and things like that. So you can hear it coming closer, and the sound of it is something, it's indescribable. It's terror, horror. Yeah.
Is that the most fear you ever felt?
Hmm.
Most fear as compared to any other mission?
Beyond that was, I think, last time when I mentioned that I had got caught. So then I looked, and that guy was looking at me, and there was nothing I could do. So that's where I felt the most intense fear.
That's a personal question I've also always had. I'm assuming that you can't speak about it, so I won't probe too much.
Please. You ask, I'll tell you what I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we know how you got out of that situation because you just mentioned it. You mentioned that you were caught by terrorists, basically.
I was not caught, but I was caught in a position where there was nowhere I could go. I was stuck on a cliff, and I was basically hanging onto the side of that cliff. There was a deep drop below me. There was a waterfall on my, and I was just stuck to grass. There was a grass coming out of the rock. I was holding onto that grass. I had a heavy rucksack on my back. My weapon was on my back, and I was testing out some new shoes that day, and they were slipping like hell. There were some fancy shoes which came from somewhere, and we were testing it out, and they was just slipping, and there was just this much ledge of rock on which I was standing, and I was like Spider-Man there, and just suddenly I look at this guy is looking at me, and it's over. So it's like that.
But
so
why are you still here?
That I have asked myself often, and what I came up with this is that there is an alternative form of reality which we don't realize, and probably that is what the truth is. So it was an impossible situation basically, and there is no way out. It's over. It's just over. There is no getting out of that. But as I said today, the exact opposite of what should have happened is what happened. There is 0% chance of of anybody getting out of that. There's no chance. There is just no chance. But the exact opposite of that happened, where I was caught, and the reverse happened, right? Now at that point, I mentioned that I had a flash, that near-death experience, what science calls nowadays, where there's like a burst of DMT in your brain.
You've
and all
experienced that.
That's when the life flash happens, no? When you see
in that moment where you saw him.
Yeah, that moment.
Was his gun pointed at you?
I just saw his eyes, and the rest is all. It's the situation. They're always carrying guns. They don't move around without guns. It's like that. So yeah. So anyway, so that point when the flash happened, then entire life. I saw my entire life like a photo album, and each photograph had videos and videos and videos of. I saw my entire life in a flash.
But time dilation also happened.
That's time dilation only. Basically, how can you see your entire life that you have lived for 20, 25 years, and see all of your 25 years in no time? It was not a second or 2 seconds or half a second. It was just no time.
You had a micro ayahuasca experience.
That's why later on I realized it's like a burst happening inside your head, in your pineal gland or whatever.
We will continue the story. I want to know more about this point. What is it actually like, seeing your life flash before your eyes? Is it pleasurable? Is it painful?
There is no emotion. There is no judgment. There is no emotion. There is no judgment. There is no regret. There is no guilt. There is no nothing. It's an observation, detached observation. It just flashes. That's it. There is no missing anyone or guilt that you're carrying. Oh, I didn't do that correctly. Oh, that was wrong. That was right. That was great. This was bad. No, it's just emotionless observation of life, entire life.
Episodes like this teach Indians everywhere what the Indian Armed Forces are? I'll let you go on.
Any human being, be it in the armed forces, be it from any nation, be it from any profession, is ultimately the same damn thing. It's consciousness expressing itself in infinite number of forms spread over time and space, right? Same damn thing opened up into infinity. So basically, basically, nothing and everything is same only. That's what it means. But we can't, because the mind can't fathom what that means. So we are stuck in duality and we keep seeing things like this rather than like that. So that's the difference. So, but in the soldier's life, any soldier who has been in active combat, what happens in active combat is there is a choice you are making to go into chaos where you could most likely lose your life. There's, like I say, as per a law of averages, it's a 50-50. So, if you really want to try and crystallize it. So any soldier from any country, from any place, specifically if I want to talk about soldiers who have been in, so those soldiers who have been in combat, they would experience these kind of things. And once the experiences happen, then the reflection happens and then the realization happens, right? So the more intense combat, the more intense situations that you have been in, and the more life and death that you have seen, at some point you'll start getting your answers about what's going on. But the same thing happens in other places also, in other professions also, in other these things also. So like that. And yes, the reason why I'm speaking about it is also because most of us live in a world where we don't have the answers for these things. We don't have the experiences of these things. So maybe it would help some people out of great complex things going on in the mind to snap out of it. That's it.
Came out a different person after that flash.
The different the flash base. So basically how I look back at it now in hindsight is that so all possibilities in our universe, it's called the Brahman, right? So it's a Brahm. The Brahm is the illusion or the dream. So basically all of reality is an illusion. It's a dream. It's like how it's portrayed in our ancient wisdom also. It's like how Vishnu is lying down and he's sleeping and he's dreaming the cosmos, right? That's how it has been depicted. And actually if you connect it back with reality, and actually from where I see it, that's exactly what's going on. So we are individual personalities which have manifested from a source. Let's call that source Vishnu. And so Vishnu is dreaming and we are all characters in the dream. But where is all these characters in the dream coming from? They're coming from Vishnu's consciousness only. All these characters, even though they seem very, like, for example, in a dream that you're having like when you go to sleep and you have a dream. So in that dream, you will meet people, you will meet various kind of personalities. With those personalities, you will have various kinds of interactions. Some may be terrifying, some may be very blissful. You may even experience love with someone, and all of these various things which happen when you're dreaming, right? But ultimately, it's, what is it? When you are in the dream, all of that is real. All the circumstances that you are facing in the dream, all the people that you are meeting in the dream, all the emotions you are feeling in the dream, the fear, the joy, whatever you are feeling in the dream, all of that is very, very real at that point of time when you're dreaming. It's very, very real for you. But when you wake up from that dream, you realize, oh, it was all a dream. And where was all of this dream happening? Where were all these characters who seemed as real as this reality? All those circumstances which you were facing in the dream, during the dream, felt as real as this reality. All the emotions that you felt when the dream was going on was as real as this reality. But when you wake up, you realize, oh, it was just a dream. When the dream was going on, it was real. So this is my crux of my understanding of our experience as humans, as what's going on right now, that we are in a dream, the dream in a cosmic mind, and we're just meeting various people in various circumstances, various emotions. All feels very real. So when you snap out of it, you'll realize that it's a real illusion. The thing about what has to be understood is that it's moldable. since the dream is happening in your head only, so at some point, once you realize that it's a dream, then you can dream the dream you wish to dream.
I have to take you back to that moment, sir.
Yeah, please, sorry.
What happened once you got out
Yeah,
of the flash?
so all possibilities, the universe is infinite in its nature, and all possibilities exist simultaneously, right? All possibilities, that's what's called the multiverse, if you may. So um, all possibilities exist simultaneously, and it's like a matrix, right? So like how a video game is coded in ones and zeros, right? If not this, then that. If that, then this, then that. That's how it's logic, right? So that's how life also unfolds. So at each and every step of each and every moment as you experience, there are infinite set of possibilities that can happen. For example, you and me sitting here, our conversation may go this way, may go that way, something may get triggered to raise some other topic, or anything can happen. Infinite set of possibilities. There could be a earthquake and this whole building could go down. Anything. There could be a terrorist attack on this building. An infinite set of possibilities exist. But when you are at the cutting edge of this life and death, that near death experience, or that line, at that point of time, it's again, you either experience this reality or you experience that reality. But consciousness never dies. It was never born, so it never dies, right? Do you remember when you were born? You don't. So in some reality, there is a portrait on the wall, and there is a mala chada hua on that, and then people are, some people may saying, oh, he was a great guy, he was very brave, and this, that, and some people are going, oh, he was this, that, whatever. There are various opinions and judgments people will be having, and they'll be experiencing joy, sorrow, relief, or nothing, no association at all. So at that point of time, when the burst happens or happened, or so in one reality that has happened, and these other realities, what is this is going on. So it's like
This
that.
is the reality where you survived.
Yeah.
How did you survive?
How did I survive? Well, everything turned on its head from where it was to what happened. I'd rather not talk about it. Yeah.
Someone else took him out.
No.
He just chose not to shoot.
At that point, yes. For some reasons. So yeah, see, the thing is, the lesson to be taken from that, it's not the incident itself.
Okay. Okay. So it's still a mystery how you survive. That's okay. That's respect for the Indian Armed Forces. That's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Respect for everyone, in fact, for our, it's like I said, when situations like that, judgment is, when you create judgment or when you operate on judgment, you limit your experience to what you think it is, and that's your ego, which is creating differentiation through judgment, and you say this is right, that is wrong, he is less, I am more, all of that, and that's where suffering happens, and that's where all the drama and the unreality of reality is.
Okay.
So when you step back and zoom out and you look at things beyond judgment, is where you can get the actual picture of what is. So the more observational in nature you are, the more aware you will be, and therefore the more easily and simply you can manifest your physicality. You can make choices, you can make them instinctively, you don't have to think about it, it happens.
Okay.
So I would like see a guy like that. Okay. Yeah.
Correct me now wherever I'm wrong. I'm going to try to break down partially, like a bit. There's no way I'll know your perspective, but this is the perspective I've learned from you as well as the other vets who've been on the show. If there is a combat situation that you find yourself in, firstly, it happens in a flash. Your body and your mind go automatically into flow state based on your years of training. Your weapon is an extension of your own body. At the same time, if you're a great soldier, you'll be extremely aware of your surroundings and aware of what your advantages and disadvantages are. You'll make that calculation very fast. Now I'm assuming that the enemy begins to fire on you. You have to be extremely aware, but you have to also take them out because they're trying to take you out. This is where my civilian mind stops its understanding. What happens after this point? Too many factors, or like how do you figure I want to take down that guy? Because I'm assuming you are behind cover, even they are behind cover. Now what do you do?
So what happens is, again, there's a direct correlation with any kind of life out here, any profession, any kind of life, any human being. There's a direct correlation. So, like for example, the situation that you have described is a combat situation in which you're stuck, you're spotted, and you're being fired upon, and you have to, kill or be killed is where you are, right? So, in the civil world, you will find yourself in many such circumstances. It may not be kill or get killed, but intense, where success and failure is happening, right? For example, so you the so the key to, so it's basically chaos happening now. It's all out of your control, right? It's Everything is out of your control. When a bullet starts flying, when multiple bullets start flying, basically what is happening is the bullets, till the time they have not hit anything, till the time they have not touched anything, they're flying in a straight line to a certain distance, right? And they're flying at an extremely high speeds, right? So when a bullet, till the time it has not touched anything or hit anything solid, it's flying in a straight line. But once, and you're generally operating in mountains, and there's a lot of terrain, there are trees, there are big rocks, boulders, etc. So when a hail or bullet comes, so the bullets start ricocheting, they start bouncing off stuff, and they're just flying around everywhere, and you can't see it. It's so fast. Bullets are flying, you can't see a bullet flying, right? But you know it's there in the air. You can hear tap 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 pat 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 pat, and you can just see, you know mud rising small and pat 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 karke, and like that you can see all of that, and you can hear kata, 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 all that is going on. So it's basically chaos. There's death flying around in the air, and you are in the dimension of death. So in that dimension, there is complete chaos. Anything can happen any moment, right? Now at that point of time, you have come with a very clear objective of what you have come to do. It may not be to destroy it, maybe to surveil it, maybe to this, maybe to that, maybe you just, whatever. So whatever is happening in that middle of the dimension of death, at that point of time, it is awareness. So there is an infinite set of possibilities constantly floating around everyone. In those infinite set of possibilities, there are certain opportunities, and there are certain things which will finish you off, right? Where does survival come from? Survival comes from being aware of the opportunities that are around you, so that you can pick that opportunity that works for you and then go for it. So how do you become aware of any situation? By firstly surrendering to surrendering to the truth of that situation. The truth of that situation is it's anybody's game. So you understand that it is anybody's game now. Now, once you have understood that it's anybody's game, and you have accepted that you can die, and it can be over in a flash, is when, and you're still alive and you're still around after having realized that, is then when you can objectively look at the circumstances that you are in, and then you can see the various infinite set of possibilities that are inside you, and your mind will click onto that exact damn one thing out of that infinity that is flying around you. You can pick up that one particular thing that is going to change the game and get you out on top.
Could you give an example of what that one thing could be?
It could be one thing. It could be a variety of various things in a certain design that you execute. You do this, and truck. This game is changed. So, I can answer this, but I'd rather not, yeah.
We're almost at the end of the episode. This has been a good, thick, long conversation.
Really?
What do you think of today?
Nice.
Okay.
It's nice to meet again. Nice to go further. See, it's a journey. So we think that we are meeting by accident. We think we are meeting. It's just happened by itself, and of course it has. The universe does not require any reason to exist. Right? It just is. But there's another way to look at it. When you say that it's basically one thing that's split into infinite set of parts, and then we are journeying together. So it's not about who's greater, smaller, lesser, more beneficial to whom, this, that. What I've realized is the energy firstly itself is an illusion, but when but if everything becomes an illusion, then where is life? And life is precious. Life is life. It is the lack of death. So it's life. And in life, there are opportunities for love and this and to experience. I mean, imagine not having a life. You wouldn't have experienced your mother, right? You wouldn't experience the relationship that you have with your mother. You wouldn't have experienced the relationship with yourself that is ever growing now. All these various books that you get to read, all these people that you get to meet, and all these things that you're coming to know, all of this doesn't happen in non-existence. All of this is happening in existence itself. So it's so one way of life is going through life through your mind, through separation and division and this and that, and thinking who's upper and lower and thing. And maybe I gave this guy more than what he has given me, and that kind of perception. If that's how your neural network is wired, you will experience life like that. But then there is a separate perception of life where you see that the exchange of energy between any two human beings is like, you may be a raja and you may meet a beggar on the street, and you give that beggar, let's say, $10,000, and that beggar just gives you a smile, right? The exchange of energy, that smile is exactly what you needed at that point of time, and that $10,000 is exactly what you needed at that point of time. So therefore the exchange of energy is equal. So many people don't understand that. Even I didn't understand, but now I do, because I've reflected back. So it makes life much more simpler. So it's just a journey of experiences happening between the same thing, which is split into so many parts. So ultimately, you, me, him, I, this, that, even the circumstances, everything that we are in, it can be experienced as division and low and this and that, or it can be experienced as merging happening, love happening, and that's the point. That's the highest feeling.
Yeah.
So we will keep meeting in life, and as we keep meeting, we go, oh, you changed. It'll keep happening like that. Yeah.
No?
So like that. Yeah, that'll be fun, no?
Yeah. Maybe for the last segment,
we will create magic together.
I think we already have in some ways.
We have. There's so many people who have written to me from around the world after that. Yeah.
I think this episode will create a even deeper impact. This is your truth has been revealed in like this episode. There is one episode left though. You know what that one's going to be about. We spoke about it briefly here.
That is some shit. Yeah.
So, while I wish to ask you a lot about Claw on a personal level and everything you guys have done with it, we have covered a lot of it on the second episode we had done.
Yeah.
Do you have any quick updates for the listeners on how they can help you in your journey right now?
So it's not about giving help or receiving help. It is about doing what makes sense to you. So we are doing what we're doing right now is Soul of Steel. Soul of Steel is a design which is based out of the past military mountaineering experiences and combat experiences and all the experiences that we had in the SF and what's going on in the outside adventure mountaineering field. So combination of the best skill sets from both these fields, the best mindsets coming from both these fields, merging and creating a hybrid, which has not only got applications in the mountains, like we're teaching, not only are we teaching mountaineering, we're teaching unarmed combat, we're teaching emergency medical first response, we're teaching survival skills, we're teaching navigation, we're teaching a bunch of skill sets which come together and putting into a certain situation where you will learn all of this, and then you will be faced with real situations out there in the wild, in the mountains, in high altitude. You will cross crevasses, you will have all this, and you would have the skills to do it. And then you will open up to new experiences, and those experiences will unleash your realization of your own self, and you will be a better human being. And then you'll come out into the world and you'll be a secure person, and you will spread that security in other people. That's Soul of Steel.
Okay.
That's what we are doing. This entire Soul of Steel is focused at creating human ability biomes. Basically, what I have come to understand from my life is that everybody has a God inside them, and that God is the same. Now, the journey of life is to realize that godliness within you. What is God? God is a supreme consciousness with supreme ability, supreme realization. That's God, right? So there is that supreme ability, supreme realization, supreme consciousness is lying hidden within all of us. It's just inside of us. It's just there. But the mind is what takes us away from it, and we feel limited in body and mind. But there is a way. What we believe is that if we can create the certain set of circumstances, we can create a certain, when I say circumstances, I mean the infrastructure, the skill sets, the kind of vibe, those kind of people coming together, and we create. So that's what the human ability biome is. We believe that this potential capability can be realized by interacting with the outside world in a certain manner. So the human ability biome is for that, where right from people with disabilities to Olympic athletes can come and dive into into situations which will open up themselves only further for their mind to understand who they are and realize it and become more open human beings, and spread love, joy, and peace and capability in the world.
That's right. So, just I wish you all the luck.
Thank you.
For every last thing that you're doing at
Thank
this
you.
stage. You've done a crazy amount of stuff for the country. I can't even begin to thank you for everything you've done for India. So, before I let you go, one, I will salute you and salute everything you've done. I don't know if I saluted you the first time we spoke, but it was definitely in my heart. And this is the time I get to salute you. Secondly, want to thank you. This is a token of our love from Team TRS and Team Agio. So it's got some goodies. No, so please have a seat.
Can you eat it?
Yeah, it's got some edible stuff as well.
Okay. Should I open it?
Yeah, we'll go out and open it.
Okay. I also got something.
Yes.
This I'll open up for you.
Thank you,
So
sir.
this is the first memento that we have created in Claw. It's like a crystallization of what we are doing. It's like
Wow. Oh, thank you, sir. This is incredible. This is incredible because it's got Major Jacob's energy manifested in Claw and in all these little things that you're doing. It's adding up, so and after talking to you, I've gotten to know your long-term goal, and I feel all these are steps in that direction. So thank you. This is going up on a wall. You've been like a massive part of this podcast journey. I can't tell you how many people discovered even the show and the team through the episodes we've done with you. So I'm just glad we got to be a part of your journey and honored to just even speak to you. So this is like above and
it's fantastic to enter into your space and feel your vibe and feel where you are going and feel where you are coming from, and the essence of you, it reflects in the team, it reflects in your vibration, and there's a lot of things that I am also picking up and learning. And, okay, I'll do that. So like that. So it's just mutual, and there's a lot of love and respect for what you are doing, how you're expressing yourself in the outside world, and how you've chosen to be and how your journey is unfolding. And the thing is, what I'll tell you is, I don't need to wish you luck or anything, because I know, because ultimately everything is intent. If the intention is expansive in nature, everything else will settle into place. But if the intent itself is limited in its nature, and it is judgmental in its nature, and it is insecure in its nature, it will always manifest that only. So you are just opening up and opening up and opening up. So you'll have a wonderful time, and you'll have a beautiful impact on this world. You already have had quite a lovely impact on this world, and more power to you.
Thank you, sir.
And to all your team, a fantastic team, great guys you got.
Thank you, sir. Means a lot. I want to thank you for coming to the studio, giving us another epic podcast, and I will only say the third of many more to come.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Means a lot.
The universe is coded in threes, So base reality that we exist in is it's like we experience reality in twos, but the actual reality is coded in threes. It's like quantum AI. It's coded in threes. It's qubits. Same as the universe, coded in threes. So 1, 2 ho gaya.
It's crazy.
Whenever it happens.
Lovely. Thank you, sir. Means a lot. And I know we're going to see each other very soon.
Roger that.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
That was the episode for today, ladies and gentlemen. Military episodes are not at all easy for me to go about. A lot of the stuff is edited out. It doesn't make its way to the internet. Some of these conversations get extremely dark and heavy. We're doing a military conversation after extremely long. I took a break from them because it was getting too much for me. Totally open to doing countless more conversations with veterans of the Indian Armed Forces. So if you have guest recommendations, please list them in the comment section down below. I do strongly believe that the Indian Armed Forces are the most capable armed forces in the world, and I have reason to believe so. I feel there's so many untapped stories, so many untapped perspectives out there. We're just at the start of this journey. For more episodes like this, make sure you follow us on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. I have been styled by Agio for today's episode. If you wish to style yourself in this manner, make sure you download the Agio app and get shopping straight away. Ajio Presents TRS will be back very soon with some intense episodes just like this. I'm enjoying the heck out of my podcasting journey because of days just like this where I get to learn from legends of legendary industries, honestly. So I feel I'm living a blessed life, and my biggest blessing is that I get to share it with you all. Thanks for all your support. We'll be back very soon. And all I want to say at the end of this special episode is Jai Hind.